Hello, welcome to the Brain Scrub, a somewhat improvised approach to mental health. My name is Glenn Sollers, and today the Brain Scrub is ending, so to speak. And I now have a special somebody, or what was that term that you used, Jason?
A special sparkle.
A special, a special sparkle who's going to co-host with me on the Brain Scrub, and this is brand new. And he and I are still discussing. Actually, we haven't really even discussed it. Hey, Jason?
No, not really.
No. Jason Duncan is in the house with me. He's the co-host on the Brain Scrub. We don't know if the name's going to change at all, but he expressed interest to me a little while ago. And we were chatting a bit about this, and I'm so honored to have him want it and blessed to have him want to do this, because Jason and I have a very different way of looking at things sometimes, and also very similar. And today we figured we're going to figure out what we're going to do as the first episode, because I'm not a planner. I don't know. Jason, are you a planner?
Nope.
No. This is perfect, because the less prep work for me, the better on these kind of things, right? I don't want to have to think about what are we going to talk about each time. Live in the world of wonder, as one of my counselors once told me, is I don't know what's going to happen. But I gave you some pre-work, right? And that was to think about what your purpose is, because my last podcast, the episode was about the purpose in life. Jason, first of all, why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a bit about you, because nobody knows you. Everybody knows my life story.
Well, I'm Jason Duncan, and I'm Glenn's neighbor. I moved to this neighborhood almost 4 years ago now, and met Glenn early on. So we've known each other for almost 4 years. And I mean, some people would call me retired. I just choose not to work. So me and my wife are very blessed to have been able to sort of take a step away from corporate life and do what we want to do, which is, essentially enjoy life. And we don't know how long we have on this earth, so we just want to be able to have freedom and do things that make us happy, give us joy, and further our development as human beings, I guess. So that's one of my purposes. Some people would say I don't live a purpose-filled life, or I have to do something, and I'm saying a lot of and and stuff like that, which Glenn scolded me on. But
I was trying to figure out
that's something I'm bad at. So we'll have to work on that as we go. But I think one thing about this podcast is it's something that we've talked about for quite some time, and it's also something I've talked about with my nephew, who wants to do a podcast, and he may be a little bit miffed that me and Glenn are doing this before he and I did it, but it's something we've talked about. And while this may not be perfect to start, I think it's just a matter of getting started on these types of things. And there'll be all 10 of you listeners listening to us at the first time, but maybe in a year from now we'll have 10,000. So you never know.
10,000.
But hey, how do you get 10,000 listeners? You start with doing it first and then see how it goes.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up, because I was walking with a friend of mine today, and her friend was asking me a bit about the podcast, because she heard Colleen on it. And Colleen's one of our mutual friends. And she said, so what's your goal? And I said, well, my goal was really, when I initially started this, was just to channel my energy in the right direction, because as my listeners know, I am missing a child in my life, and I was very negative about that. And then I figured, well, what can I do that's more positive? And hence I started this. And it was just a way of me sharing my life and my experiences and how I've gone through life in a positive way, and hoping that others would learn from that, I guess. But it wasn't really about the number of listeners. It was more around me having that channel, because I do leadership development work, and I don't always cover everything that I'm passionate about, although I'm passionate about my work. Yeah. Anyway. So Jason, the purpose, and I shared my purpose with you. What's your purpose? And you said you kind of said it there, but maybe I just wasn't listening.
I sort of mumbled on, but maybe that's something we'll work on, because to be honest, I didn't do the exercise. So I'm not a planner, and I do everything at last minute. And so
He does.
no,
He's part of my mountain biking group, and I sent out an invite like on a Monday so people can plan ahead. And then I hear from Jason the night before saying, "Who's going?"
yeah, but he knew I was going all along. So
How did I know that?
because you probably talked to me on Tuesday, and I said, yeah, I'm planning to go.
You didn't say that. Oh, yeah, we're both getting older
I also,
as well.
have to figure it out, which I don't always know. So because we do everything last minute, and like you said, we don't plan. We just kind of go with the flow.
Yeah.
Both me and my wife. So
And you have a lot of people flowing in and out of your home all the time.
yeah,
as well.
the schedule's busy,
It is super busy. Jason knows a lot of people.
and I just mostly let Sharon plan the calendar because it's just easier that way. So
Well, if you don't like planning, it's perfect, right? And if you're more last minute, if you plan the calendar, who knows who's going to show up?
exactly.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think the purpose, there's maybe we should talk about the purpose of the podcast instead of my purpose. Is that a good deflection? But I think that there's a lot of different topics that we potentially want to cover. Some controversial, but not too controversial that we get canceled from the world. No, but we want to, cover a lot of things. I think the positive aspect of the brain scrub and mental health and physical health are important parts of our life, and something that I'm personally working on a lot more than I used to. And so that could be something we talk about. I definitely want to delve into things like retirement and, what's next after retirement. And, I guess really the purpose driven life, right? What does that mean? It can mean a lot of different things to different people. Does it mean you have to have a job or some kind of hobby, or is it about, just being fulfilled on a day-to-day basis and being joyful? So I think those are all topics that we could dive into over the next, several episodes and see where that takes us. But
Well, I think one of the things you said there was just around joyfulness. And when we shared that we're doing a podcast together with some folks that we know, what was one of the topics that came up was, like, I don't want it to be that serious. It was around sexual abuse, I guess, in the high school system or something. Whoa, that's
or
just
community networking, municipal affairs, I guess you'd call it.
yeah.
It's like, I don't think we want to narrow our podcast down to a specific topic either, right? We want to keep it open and general and discuss if it's an issue of the day or something more meaningful than that. I don't think we want to scope it down to some specific topic all the time.
No, I agree. And I think there needs to be kind of some boundaries there.
Mm-hmm.
Like what I mean by boundaries is where we don't go. Like I still have a job. So I run part of a company, and for me I can't, and nor would I have to be very careful with certain things that are out in the media. So Jason and I have already had that conversation that now in the way the world is unfolding is it just seems like there's an us versus them. And sometimes we have to be a bit careful. So I also want to just mention that what is stated in this podcast, and I might do a disclaimer at the end of every podcast is, or just even at the, like a precursor, is that what it's called? Like a precursor? Would I do a precursor or a postcursor? Like, the message that some podcasts have that this is not medical advice.
Yes.
And also this is not affiliated to Quail Leadership and Talent Management, which is the company that I work for. These
opinions are mine and mine only. And Jason's opinions are definitely not mine.
we could do something like that. We'll figure that out. Yeah, because I think it's also important to sometimes be on the edge, but not too much on the edge, because a lot can be learned by being on the edge. And I think one thing that I've really appreciated in our friendship is that you have a different way of thinking sometimes than I do. Like I see those looks that you give me when I talk about the fact that oil wells are off gassing methane gas and stuff. Right? It's like, okay, Glenn, like reel it in there. I'm not sure what's going on in your head, but okay. So we're going to talk about anything, and we're going to try to make it some sort of like meaningful. I would like it to be there where it helps people think and consider. And obviously I'd love to have some sort of progression aspect that when you listen to this, I'm hoping your life has an incremental improvement. I don't know.
There you go. Yeah, that makes sense. And I think I think we can talk about specific topics for a show or maybe a series if there's something that we want to really delve into, but it doesn't have to be the defining kind of purpose of this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And I also want to be conscious of the fact that your purpose is met. And you said maybe we can work on that, Jason.
There you go. We can find my purpose. That should be the whole podcast, is to find a purpose for Jason.
I know. How should we start this? What, when you look at your history, what has always been your gift to the world?
Yeah, that's a tough question to make me think about, but I don't know. I don't think I have one gift. I have a lot of gifts, and I think helping people is a big part of that, and being, kind and courteous. And definitely one of the things that we, my wife and I want to do is help. Well, and I've told you this before, I want to help young people, particularly with things like finance and money and setting yourself up for the future. In terms of, our house, we've always said that we want to share it with people that we can help with their journey, whether that be if they're going through some kind of emotional struggle, maybe even things like divorce or other things like that. So we want to give some of our kind of abundance, I guess you'd say, to help other people, right? We want to be there to support people and help them. And we also talked about doing things like seminars or retreats and stuff like that. We backed away from that definitely when COVID hit and realized that's probably way too much work for us to do. So we haven't really pursued that, but we've definitely shared our place and shared our love with other people and supported them through tough times, and we'll continue to do that. So, those are some of the sort of basic stuff. When it comes to my passions, there's lots of passions, and one of the big ones for me is my photography business, which isn't a business, it's a hobby. The joy of photography, sharing that with other people, maybe teaching them, that sort of thing. So yeah, there's lots of facets that I'm interested in. And certainly right now, again, the physical health, getting in shape, doing all that sort of thing is a big part of what I'm trying to do this year. And I think that's a real interesting topic we could, chat about, because I think you've been a big inspiration for me, somebody that's pushed me, got me to the next level, helped me get off my butt and get out there and do stuff. Getting up and hiking mountains and all of our mountain biking that we're doing these days. That's all, a large part to your influence and some of the other people in this community that are, pushing to be healthier and fitter. And so that's really led me on, a path to really focus on that this year and focus on diet and getting in shape, all those sorts of things. So yeah, I think that's a really good topic we could talk about. And that ties into all sorts of different areas of mental health and physical health and staying young, aging. We're all getting into past our middle age, and how do we not necessarily live longer, but live healthier, right? I think that's an important thing for the next half of my life, right? Is to be in the best shape I can be and not let myself deteriorate. And when I'm 80 years old, my goal is to be still active and healthy and out there doing things, not, in a wheelchair with diabetes or something like that, right? I want to be healthy and enjoy lifespan, I guess is the right word for that. So I think that's a real interesting area we could really talk about. And maybe I'm sure there's a lot of different guests we could have on that could, help us with that, talk about some of their journey and path on that aspect of life. So yeah, that's a big focus for my life right now.
Wow. And first of all, thanks for the compliments. Secondly, I just want to, there's a few things that came up for me when you're saying that. Number one is I just want to let you know what I see in you, because I did that activity before I came up with my purpose. I texted a whole bunch of friends and said, what do you see in me? What are my gifts? And for you, Jason, I love how first of all, how you said we. I don't know if you noticed that, but when you were explaining your purpose, it wasn't just about you. It was about you and Sharon.
Yeah.
And that means a lot. Like, it shows that you two are in this together, that you have so much love for each other, that you have mutual goals, and that you're very purpose oriented and also similar values. And that's one thing I've always noticed in both of you is the gift you bring to other people in respect to your time, your resources, your support. You, with your niece, you helped her out tremendously when she was doing her little journey. Well, it wasn't even a little journey, but you were there for her constantly.
Yeah.
You were supporting her, your nieces and nephews. You don't have any kids, but you treat the world with great kindness. You're passionate. You're the guy I can really count on for following through on things that you say and mountain biking. So you're committed. You try different things out. Your doors are always open. You put a smile on people's faces. You open up my eyes to things that I never even thought of. So I love your pragmatic side as well. And you're willing to challenge the status quo. Those things are gifts for me. But I would say the biggest part from what I see is just is a general love that you exude for those that are out there, and your doors are always open and to try to nail you down for like a lunch or a dinner or whatever. You guys are always so busy entertaining. So with that in mind, I also liked how you said that you are focused on giving of yourself to others to help better their life. And I love how you're now turning that around, and you do have a great life. Because one thing I really realize is that I'm living my best life now, and I don't want it to end. Like, I want to be happy like I am now. I'm not trying to pursue happiness. I'm there, and I want to sustain it for as long as possible. So health is really important to me. So tell me about this 75-day thing that you're on, if you don't mind sharing a bit about it, because I had Jason and Sharon over for dinner a week ago, and normally I'd have some wine. And what did they bring? Blueberries with mint. That kept on getting stuck in your teeth. And I have a bit of OCD when it comes to things in people's teeth, because my dad was a dental therapist, and I always end up looking at people's teeth. And then when I see you have mint stuck in your teeth, I'm like, oh, can I carry a conversation with them?
That got a little too chewy for me at the end. But the 75, it's 75 hard challenge, which a lot of young people are doing right now. And so our nephew had already started that. We were talking to him. We were on our little trip down to the US, and we were down south, and we were talking on the phone. He said, oh, I'm doing this challenge. And the challenge is to exercise or do a workout of 45 minutes a day, and then an outdoor exercise or activity for 45 minutes a day, to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book, drink a gallon of water, go on some sort of diet, and take a progress pic every day. So I thought this would be a good way to kickstart, because I've been very good at doing exercise when we're around home the last couple of years, but we go on these trips that we've gone on. We were gone for a month, and you get off your routine. You kind of, and especially as you get a little bit older, you're not doing your hiking and biking and weightlifting and stuff like that, and suddenly it feels like you're back to square zero on terms of your fitness level, your cardio. And so I thought, okay, well, we really want to focus on cutting back on sugar and carbs, really get into a workout routine. And so I said, I'm going to do the soft 75. I modified the challenge a little bit to say more like 30 minutes of workout, 30 minutes of outdoor activity, 2.5 liters of water, because I thought a gallon of water, which is more like 3.5, 4 liters of water, was too much. And to also give myself a day off every week. So yeah, so we got back and we started this challenge. And one of the other things in the challenge was no drinking. And I was trying to skirt around that a little bit, but my wife, Sharon, she reminded me of that. So I said, well, sure, I can go without drinking for a bit. So, I don't need to drink. So that one came off the books. And of course, I think the hardest time not to drink is when you're in a social environment, you're with everyone, they're drinking. I enjoy a glass of wine with dinners and stuff like that. So we came up with this blueberry mint drink, which I think you need to strain the mint out, but it was fine. I didn't miss the drinking that night. It was nice to have this drink. You could drink it just like it's a regular drink, and you don't really even notice the alcohol. And I think that I'm feeling a lot better, and certainly I've been beating my challenge goals every day. I think I've been 2 weeks into this, so I've done my all my weightlifting 6 times a week. Did like a killer bike, and that really knocked me out, but my legs felt really strong, because one of the things I want to do with weightlifting is make sure I'm balancing out my muscle groups and stuff. So even though starting off on legs, the first couple times you do that, you can't walk for a week, but now I think I'm past that point, and I could definitely already notice that when I was on the bike, that my legs, my hamstrings. And actually one of the big things I'm doing too is making sure I do a really thorough stretching routine every day before my workout. I actually, this morning at 8:00, I woke up and Sharon was nowhere to be seen. She was downstairs working out, because she also decided to do this challenge. She was up in the morning working out first thing, because we had a busy day today. And so I went down and started off with my stretching. And then we did our polar dip, cold plunge thingy. And usually my favorite thing to do after that is to go straight into the hot tub. But instead, I did a weight routine and a bike exercise for an hour. So that warmed me up. I was sweating at the end of that. Glenn, that's a lot of applause from you.
I know, that's great. There's going to be some sound issues in this podcast because I got this new podcast equipment, and that was just the applause. And there's another one here as well. Oh yeah, that's kind of like the excited thing, and I'm kind of excited for you. But on that note, Jason, now we were supposed to do the cold plunge at 11:30 today.
Yeah.
And then you said I can't go at 11:30. I can go 11. At 12, 11. So we went at 12 better. You said you got up and you worked out. What time do you and Sharon get up?
Well, interestingly, since we started this, we're actually getting up a lot earlier than we used to. I was up at 8 today.
Okay.
But, usually I don't have to. I almost never set an alarm, and I usually wake up between 8 and 8:15, 8:30, maybe at the latest. Mm-hmm. But now I'm starting to wake up more like 7:30.
7:30. Okay.
So
yeah,
I think I needed a little extra sleep after that bike ride yesterday, though.
Yeah, I needed some extra sleep too. Now, a couple things about this the 75-day. What's been the biggest challenge for you?
I think the diet, not the sugar, because we did the no. I said no. Like Sharon's trying to be sugar free. She thinks she's a sugar addict, and she listens to these Sugar Summit things every January. So when we were driving through California and all over the place, we listened to like hours and hours of these sugar, no sugar summits with all these experts talking about how bad sugar is. It's poison. It's, destroying your liver, giving you diabetes. It's the root of, all your brain fog issues and your heart issues. And if you don't eat sugar, you can basically live forever. Not quite, but it's just talking about how it's, all these metabolic diseases are, sugar is a root of that. And I think also processed carbs is part of that.
Yeah.
And anything that is really kind of spiking your blood sugar is part of that, this, as they say, the SAD diet, the standard American diet, which is, awful for you, right? It's not healthy, and it's causing a lot of epidemics out there. So yeah, we are doing I'm doing no carbs, no processed carbs, and no sugar. And the sugar has actually been easy, but the carbs is a little harder just because, we've been to a couple social events, and inevitably there's going to be carbs served. And we've been able to kind of avoid the sugar stuff because although there's probably sugar in some things, I think a little bit of sugar maybe is okay. But if you're eating cakes and desserts and all of that, it's going to be, I think that's easier to avoid. But when it comes to a soup with noodles in it, what are you supposed to do? So so that part's been a little challenge. I've ate more carbs than I wanted to, but at the same time, one of my philosophies in life is to never quitting. And that actually was a smoking thing, because I used to smoke in my 20s, and that was how you never quitting, or always, I guess the positive way to say that is always keep doing things. If you don't work out for a day, don't let that build up, and get back at it the next day, right? Go out and do a hike, or get back into your weight training. As soon as you kind of let that stuff pile up, and it's definitely true with smoking, right? Smoking is so addictive that you try to quit, it lasts for a day or two, then you start smoking again. Well, the people that quit keep trying to quit. The people that don't quit give up after they get, I quit at one time for like a year and a half, and then somehow I started smoking again, probably because of a girlfriend. And, it was just a matter of quitting. And the second time it was way easier to quit. So yeah, I think with all of these things, nobody's perfect, right? If you eat a brownie, it doesn't mean you have to go and get a pail of ice cream and eat the whole thing the next day, right? It's just acknowledge it and get back on the horse, so to speak.
Have you heard David Goggins talk at all?
Oh yeah.
His,
David Goggins is crazy.
But it makes a lot of sense, because Fran, she's been listening to Sugar Summits and everything for
Sharon and her bonded on that.
Oh my God. And I think it gets to a point in time, and just to do it, you just have to stop putting it in your mouth. But I don't get it. But there's certain things that for sure I'm addicted to and there's healthy addictions and unhealthy addictions. But if you have it sitting there and you put it in your mouth, you can go to all the Sugar Summits in the world. And so here's the question I was going to ask you. So let's say our mutual friend brings their famous loaf of bread into your house with their butter that they bring.
The brown butter.
What would you do?
Well, I think it's probably easy to resist that for 75 days, but over the long haul, that's harder to do, right? And I would say sometimes you just got to eat a piece of bread, I guess, but maybe not have the butter. Or, like I say, we had the noodle soup, right? We just ate it, and it wasn't a big deal because it was a overall healthy soup, and a little bit of noodles isn't going to kill you. But I think bread's easier to resist than some other things for me. So I could definitely resist that in the short term.
You could.
Longer term, that, you're at a nice party in the summer and there's some cake and ice cream for somebody's birthday. That's tough, right? And I know Sharon has fallen off the wagon, so to speak, on her sugar. She's done this before, right? She's quit sugar. Says, "Oh, I'm not addicted to sugar anymore." And you eventually end up in a social situation where there's going to be something that you can't resist, and you eat it. And I think the key is not to just go full force into eating that kind of stuff. It's acknowledge that you ate it and don't beat yourself up about it. Just move on and stay on track, right? And I think you've said this, the 80-20 rule, I think is important in life. If you can resist that 80% of the time, that's a pretty good pretty good outcome for these kind of addictive, poisonous substances.
So what do you say to somebody who says, you just need to have balance? A little bit of...
I agree with them.
You agree with them? Yeah.
But
then there's this whole analogy that would you agree that doing cocaine in a bit of balance is okay? I heard that argument before. Would you just have a little bit of cyanide? That's it.
Well, I
just
think
don't eat cyanide every day.
Yeah. Well,
and sugar.
Some people actually do that. They apple seeds have a lot of cyanide, and people actually say apple seeds are good for you if you blend them up into a juicer or whatever.
Okay, sorry, bad example.
But anyways,
yeah.
No, I think you could say that about drinking, because one of the things that I think I've done a very good job at over the past year or so is having one or two drinks. Not, you have a bottle of wine, open up with dinner, you share it amongst your friends. Once you get onto the second and third bottle, you're not going to be able to resist that, right? You're hungover the next day. You're having, way too much alcohol. But if you can just resist that and have like a glass or two, I think that's okay. Cocaine, yeah, that's a bit of an extreme example.
That is extreme,
right?
Yeah.
So I would say that falls, on the no, probably not side. But when it comes to sugar is ubiquitous in our society. So
yeah.
It's, again, for me, it's the social side of it that's harder. So.
Yeah. And when you were over last week, and then Colleen came and brought her alcohol-free IPA, I had one of those, and then I had a second alcohol-free IPA, and then I had a tiny bit of wine. And normally, I was in Vancouver for 3 days for work, and normally when I get home, I'm so exhausted that I just need to wind down with a glass of wine. And I was thinking about on the ferry ride home, I thought, so I'm going to be home. And I had no desire for wine at all, which was a unique experience for me, because normally I'm like, I can't wait to get home. I'll sit down, I'll have a glass of wine, and that's it, to get the edge off. And I didn't need that at all, nor did I even want it. And then we went out Friday night for dinner and had a couple of drinks, and that's it. Mm-hmm. And then last night we had nothing. So yeah, I feel it's only been a week for me or 2 weeks. You mentioned you're feeling better. What else are you noticing?
Well, I'm starting to lose a little bit of weight. That's been slow, but I probably feel really good right now because we just did a polar dip, bunch of exercise, and so I feel like I could conquer the world. But I'm not missing alcohol in any way, shape, or form. And I had a chat with one of our close friends who definitely likes his wine, and even he said, "Hey, this is great. I have lots of wine. I'm not going to stop drinking it in front of you." And I said, "I don't expect you to, and I wouldn't want you to." And he said, "I won't try to, push it on you." And so I think that's a great sign. That's a great thing from a friend to support you through that. So I think we all need support in these things too, right? If it's, I think a lot of us are trying to get a little bit healthier. I think bringing up the fact that I'm not drinking for the next 75 days probably makes you a little bit more conscious to say, hey, I don't need to drink as much either, right? Like, it's easy when we're all, coming out of COVID and there's lots of big parties and the alcohol is flowing. It's easy to get carried away. And I know personally I have got carried away, and it's not something I want to do, right? I want to make sure I'm living my best life, and having a big old hangover the next day sure doesn't you waste 2 days, right? You're because you're down and out, you're trying to recover from the night before, and then the next, as we get older, the next day you're still tired. So it's definitely not going to help you get on with your exercising and doing fun things,
Yeah, and I think when it really connected with us in the community was when one of our mutual friends was diagnosed with AFib, and then we realized, we don't know when this is going to be the last day, so let's try to be healthy and let's drink less, because that's part of the AFib thing. You have to drink less wine and booze. And then we all realized, yeah, you know what, we kind of drink a lot because the first few years here where we live, it was a party, and it's still,
Yeah,
I'm still having a great time, but you don't need to have a drink in your hand to have a great time.
exactly.
But the other thing that I'm kind of curious about, and I think this would be another topic of discussion, but I want to have some sort of professional here that knows a bit about it, is I find that they talk a lot about alcohol in the government, and they now are saying in Canada here. Oh, and by the way, before I even go there, Jason said we went for a polar dip. If we have listeners in other parts of the world, and you know we're from Canada, because I mentioned that before, when we say polar dip, it's not really a polar dip. We live on the west coast of Canada, and here around Vancouver, we don't get a lot of snow. In fact, we had 4 days of snow this year or something.
Yeah.
And polar, yeah, it was 6.5 degrees Celsius, which is cold. And Jason was in there for 15 minutes. I got out after 7, but that's our polar dip. And it's quite,
Well, it's, it's still, I would still consider it a polar dip, but when I got out of there and the sun was shining, I said, oh, it feels like summer out here.
it was almost like, yeah, I felt like I was in Port Bayard or something.
Yeah.
Like it was definitely a hot, I'm kidding. It didn't feel that way at all. I was still
It
shivering.
was probably only 5 degrees, but it felt like it was 25.
See, I get out of the water and I go right into after drop where I just keep on shaking, and then I finally stop after about half an hour. Now, so I was going off on a tangent there. Now, when the government starts saying stuff like 2 drinks per week should be the maximum for people our age.
I think they say that for everybody, don't they?
Do they say it for everybody?
I think so.
But here's my whole thing is I think sugar's worse for you than alcohol. I know alcohol has sugar in it, but
I think they're the same.
they're don't ruin it for me, Jason. No, I want to feel good about myself. I want to feel good when I drink.
Well, I think sugar is worse because it's in everything, and it's just if you're eating a sad diet, you're eating sugar at every meal. Alcohol, well, unless you're over the edge, you're probably not. But definitely going off and binge drinking 8 or 10 drinks in a night, I think that's worse than eating sugar.
Oh, I agree. I think I don't drink that much. Like I might have 3 glasses of wine at the most, I think. But then what I do is I take a little bit of wine each time, and it makes me feel better. Like I'll just put a tiny bit in there. Now, have you heard of the Yucca app?
No.
Okay. So one of our mutual friends showed me that app. It's YUKA.
Oh, yes. I remember.
Okay. It has like a carrot on it, and you scan barcodes, and it lets you know the food quality and whether it's healthy or not healthy. And I did that. You see, we had to figure something out with this mics there. You put a glass of water on the table.
Ding.
And ding. Yeah. I'll have to figure. I'm gonna have to put egg cartons all over this room or something and on the table to reverberate, to limit that. It's an amazing app, but some of the food that one buys at like even an organic store, when you think that the food's good, I bought these bagels that are gluten-free, and they were not cheap. I think it was $7 for a package of 6 bagels, and these bagels are probably 5 centimeters like thick. And I scanned it, and it said it was like a 3.5 out of 10 pour, and that there's chemicals in there that are poisonous or something to that effect. Yeah.
Wow.
So yeah, it's an interesting app to use, and it's amazing. You think you're buying healthy stuff, but it's not.
Yeah.
Like I think we eat way too much processed food.
Packaged food is generally probably in that 3.5 or worse on the app, right?
Yeah.
And health food stores are somewhat, well, it shouldn't be health food stores just, but it's a bit deceptive to sell packaged foods and poor quality items. You go into a health food store and they've got chips, they've got candy, they've got all this stuff that's really poor for our health, and they're calling it health food, or they're making it seem like it's health food when it's certainly not. So, that's a whole other podcast though, right?
It is. Yeah. There's, I think we're going to have to re-listen to this just to come up with all the episodes.
Yeah.
I think we probably have 100 episodes nailed so we're going to talk about retirement, food, weight loss, sugar, alcohol, community. Oh,
Exercise,
exercise
fitness,
for sure.
lifespan,
Yeah. Whoa, lifespan. That's a that's a big topic.
health span.
Health span. What are you guys eating then?
Nothing. Well, a lot of vegetables for one thing. Me personally, I love meat, and I'm not going to give up meat. So
No.
Eating probably less meat, but I also love vegetables, right? So I'm happy to just eat, a nice a vegetable, a salad, and a meat. So whether that's a steak or chicken, I've been doing some stir fries, which are good. The sauces for that have to be very careful. We found a light kind of sauce that's pretty tasty, but it turned out there was a tiny amount of sugar in it. So we had to be careful with that. But
Yeah.
I think, again, from the aspect of it's a tiny amount and it's using a small amount of sauce just to give it a touch of flavor was in my mind fine.
And Sharon being a vegetarian, what does she eat as protein? Nuts or something? Or
Well, she eats a lot of cheese, which probably isn't that great, but she eats beans and things like that. But I would guess that she probably needs to eat a few more protein. She also eats eggs, egg whites, and she'll get like a certain kind of side dish, I guess, that she's trying to get the protein and things. But we're certainly not food scientists. We've got a lot to learn, and
yeah.
It's not perfect, but I think eating the vegetables is a big thing, right? Just making your meal mostly vegetables.
Mm-hmm.
You probably can't go wrong with that.
Well, our mutual friends, I'm not going to mention their names, they just eat meat, cheese, and eggs.
Yeah.
They don't really eat vegetables.
See, I like vegetables, and I think I need vegetables, but a lot of people even on the Sugar Summit that we were listening to, the host of the Sugar Summit, who's been doing it for years, has been I think he was vegan, and now he's more vegetarian, and they used to poo meat, but he probably had about, I don't know, out of the, let's say we listened to 50 guests, I'd say 5 to 10 of them were carnivore diet people, and they think that it's the best thing for them. So I do believe that it's really depends on the person, right? And your genetics and things like that of what kind of food is good for you. And for me, I'm an omnivore all the way, but I love meat. I don't have to have meat with every meal, but I like to have it. I definitely want to have it once a day, and usually with dinner.
Yeah.
So.
Well, yeah, they did this study where exactly what you just said is right. Is everybody's different, right?
Mm-hmm.
It depends on your body makeup, depends on your genes and stuff like that. When I grew up, my parents were German. Well, They are German. Well, one of them passed away, but nonetheless, we had to eat pig fat on rye bread. That was kind of like our staple. It was all about pork. And mind you, my dad passed away when he was 67. So he's not like, that freaks me out a bit in terms of my lifespan. But yeah, if I look at the main differences between our parents, what they went through, it was definitely less processed food. Like mm-hmm. everything we eat
absolutely.
now. Just going to a restaurant, the amount of the food's good, but something makes it good.
Yeah. Well, there's a reason that average life expectancy is sort of declining now, and it's something that we could see happening. Our grandparents they didn't have processed food really, right? It was things were out of a glass bottle, or they grew it themselves. Went to the butcher. It was all very natural, and part of it, I guess, is our population has exponentially exploded. So I think one of the guys on the Sugar Summit was talking about you actually need processed food, because we probably can't feed all of the people in the world without processed food, but how do you make it healthy, right? That's sort of a tangent, but yeah, I think our grandparents grew up eating much healthier and weren't exposed to the same toxicity that we unfortunately are these days, right?
Yeah, and just even the fact that there are certain regions of the world that can't grow food anymore, and they
Yeah.
have to import it. So then you have to preserve the food and add other chemicals to that before you'd probably just
Salt it.
just put salt on it. But yeah, food has to keep somehow, right? So how do you ship it somewhere without it going back? Like it still amazes me that they can pick avocados in Mexico and send it up here. And see, you can even hear the fridge on these microphones, right? I'll have to figure this out. Can you hear
Maybe a setting for that, like if you change the gain or something, but yeah, I can hear it.
You can hear it as well. I have to unplug that fridge, maybe. Wow, this is
You don't want to do that though. All your beer's gonna be.
I know. That is because that is filled with beer and mocktails.
There you
Fran got like a whole case of mocktails from Costco. That do you want one?
No.
Okay.
They probably have sugar in them.
It does. It has 6 grams of sugar per serving.
Yeah.
Or something like that. I want to know, what are you hoping to get out of this podcast? Why did you sign up for
followers.
this? 10,000
No,
followers.
I'm joking. I just thought it would be fun.
Yeah.
And I think it would be a good way to kind of discuss different things and, just get our ideas out there a little bit and mostly have fun. Right. I think
Okay.
that's it for me right now, but we'll see. I think that can evolve into something more meaningful.
Yeah. And so when I work with teams, we talk about, like, have you ever put together IKEA furniture?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. What happens when you don't read the instructions?
Well, I'm probably so good at IKEA furniture that I don't even need the instructions.
Oh, I have a professional in the house here.
I've built a lot of IKEA furniture.
Okay. Yeah.
But yeah, usually
know-
I have put things in backwards.
Yeah,
And
so-
then it's like, oh, I have to take this all apart.
What are our IKEA instructions, Jason? Like, you introduced me to this Monopoly card game the other day,
Yeah.
which was not easy. It's not like standard Monopoly, pretty straightforward, but I'll get used to it. But I would need to look at the instructions to figure out how to play the game. How are we going to play our podcast game together? What are your expectations?
I'm pretty, me, I'm pretty laid back. I don't really have huge expectations.
Lovely.
So it's just about thinking about things, talking it through, possibly debating ideas.
Yeah.
I think we've meandered around and, like you say, found a bunch of different things we could just discuss and eventually perhaps bring other people in this. And I think one of the things that we do want to do, joking about the 10,000 followers, but if we're the only ones that are listening to this, I think we need to think about how do we get some listeners, right? Because if we're just doing it and no one cares, are we going to sustain it? Sustainability is a part of it too, right? Are we going to, if we just do 3 of these podcasts, it's probably, we can call it a success, right? Although you've been doing it for years now already. So maybe that's a leg up, right? But how do we actually grow the audience? So that's outside of the podcast. That's to do with, getting marketing, internet expertise.
Like a website or something?
Well, I don't think it's a website, but getting it kind of on those apps, right? And getting people talking about something in a way that's interesting to other people, I guess.
Yeah, and we had a kind of like a chuckle last week because I'm doing everything I can to get off social media because it takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
And yet I think it's important. I agree in promoting the podcast. And I just rolled my eyes as I said that because I have my life is full, and to find time to go to Facebook and all those other, like Instagram, and do that. I hear you. So to get a following, you don't have many expectations. What gets you upset?
Usually the government.
Okay, besides the government, what do people do to you that you feel
Cut me off on the highway.
Wow, you're really evading the question here. So people, friends, is there anything that people do that you find
Are you trying
don't
to
do that
trap
to
me
me?
here?
Yeah, I'm trying to trap you, Jason.
I think we talked about that a little bit. It's the peer pressure stuff because I think I have a problem saying no sometimes, and peer like trying to pressure you into something or make fun of you, to get you to do something. That stuff annoys me.
Wow, so I think I just annoyed you because I was
Yeah, you
pressuring
pressured me into saying and giving an answer. I've been pretty good at evading your questions about purpose and what are you trying to get out of this? So, you asshole. But you know me, actually, I try not to. Maybe I come off as grumpy sometimes, which is more a tone issue for me. But well, ask Sharon that. But I'm generally pretty laid back
Okay.
and try to have a positive attitude. So, and especially now that I'm reading my 10 pages a day, and the first book is The Happiness Advantage. So it's really teaching me it's all about the frame of mind, right? How you look at things and how you interpret and choose to react, right? And
Yeah.
so to me, there's not really a lot that gets me upset
Okay.
in
Good.
terms of like friends and
Yeah.
day-to-day stuff. I don't get phased or offended by things really.
Yeah. Okay. The other question I had for you is, do you want this to be a once every 2 week thing or once a week? I think like once a week is a bit much for me. Like if we're doing it on my own, it was easy to do it once a week because I would say, you know what? I feel like doing a podcast and
I
I'm
think
just going to record
5 times a week.
5 times a week. Yeah. Jason's retired. Glenn's not. Jason's goes on vacation a lot.
Oh yeah, except when I'm on vacation. No. I'd say twice a month.
Twice a month? Okay, we can
Probably
do
would
it.
be
Yeah,
good,
twice a
right?
month. And should we change the name? We'll talk about that.
I think we need to discuss that offline and think
Yeah, I
about
think we
it.
need to. Yeah.
I guess we probably need to because the Brain Scrub is your brand about mental health aspects, and that's probably not what this is about anymore, right?
No, well, that's a good point. I still want it to be the kind of podcast that's not necessarily about how to optimize your mental health, because mental health's a weird subject. And I don't mean weird in a weird way. I mean that I think it's sometimes misunderstood. And when people, like when I used to think about mental health, I thought about neurological disorders and stuff like that, but it's not that at all. It's how you, just like how you said, how you process information, how you frame things, how you take things on. So if somebody says something that's bad, how do you respond to that? Or just even when you look at political movements and how people are so against each other, I think that's all encompasses the mental side of your life.
Yeah.
So I think there still can be that element of optimizing our health with mental health, because it all goes together. Because one thing I want to talk to you about as well is just the whole spiritual side of things, because I know you, from what I understand, you and Sharon have done a lot of work around having a very balanced life. What's that look for?
I don't know if we've done a lot of work around that, but I think we strive for that. Maybe.
Well, I'd love to know more about that as well. So I think that's
Yeah.
another episode, because everything else in my life, like when I look at all those sections of the pie that one has to have, like friends, blah, 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 home, da, 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 da. The one thing that's missing for me is the spiritual side. So I'm kind of curious about that, because I've tried. Like I've tried to pray to God. Not saying that God is like means spiritual side. I've done yoga nidra, but for me, I'd love to know. I think that would be a whole other episode, is around how do you achieve some sort of transcendence to a life where I feel like I'm not doing it alone. And that's one reason I'm so happy that you're doing this with me, because I've been doing it alone.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do life alone anymore. I've been doing life alone for 54 years and I'm done doing life alone. So thank you for being in my life.
Anything, it's always more fun to do stuff with other people, because you get to share the experience. I think well, being held accountable, laughing together. If you're just going out for a bike ride by yourself, you're just going to go grind it up the notch and down, and maybe you think about things, but when somebody's there, you're going to talk and joke about things, and yeah, it's just more fun, right? And even travel, right? Travel, you and Fran do a lot of travel too. I don't think you'd have the same joy without her there, right? You would, that's an important aspect of a marriage, obviously, is why we're, committed to that other person, is so that you can live your life together and share the experiences. So I think for doing a podcast by yourself is tough, right? Because you're just talking and there's nothing to really feed you or build off of, or you've got to have a pretty good idea of what you're going to say, I think, because otherwise it's not going to be that easy, I don't think, to do it, right?
You're right. And in fact, just us doing this is just a way of being in community.
There
like
you go.
Like we're having a conversation.
Yeah.
Like, how often would you and I sit down at a table and start talking about whatever?
Every time we get together. Plus, we got to get better at code names. So we got to get our mind meld going on.
For those of you who don't know code names, play it. In fact, that's, I think, one of the things that I've been surprised about in our community is how we've transitioned to game night.
Yeah.
Like, what if it turns into bingo night? Send me to a home. I'm going to Palm Springs. Can we stay away from bingo? Or can you call me out on that if I ever do want to do bingo? That you say, Glenn, okay, no.
Yeah, I don't think we have to worry about that, Glenn.
We don't have to worry about that?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
Fortunately, your friend owns a game store, or our friend owns a game store, so he's probably got some other options for us.
He does. And, I hope I didn't offend you. Do you play bingo?
Do I look like I play bingo?
I don't know. Maybe you do. Because I saw your face change and I thought,
I thought that was funny.
Did I...
I can play 15 cards at once,
Can you really?
No, I got one card and I'm like, what was that? What?
Stop. Yeah. Stop. Yeah. I need to catch up. Well, I think this is good for our first episode. Yeah.
I think we've blabbed on enough here.
We've blabbed on enough. It's been so pleasurable having you here, Jason, as my co-host, and we're gonna have to figure out how this works. And I think it does. It's just working. I'm more curious. Well, I'm curious about our next episode, but I'm curious how this all sounds on this new gizmo.
Yeah.
Hopefully
it's not garbage.
It's definitely not garbage, but I'm just more worried about the garbage noises, like our cups going down, and how can we position things? Is there a different way of managing the microphone? These are all things that we need to learn.
Glass table bad.
This is, yeah. Did you hear that? That is, yeah. I used to do it in the garage. That might be a bit cold, but I can set up the heaters. But the thing there is you have like all this echo in the area. Unless we do it in my office, that might be a place to do it.
We could try our at my house too, I guess.
Yeah, we could do that. Well, with this thing, we can take it anywhere, Jason. We're in a portable technology world. On the ocean with the waves coming in. And
the
seals.
Sleepy Time one. The Sleepy Time episode.
Another topic. Folks, thanks for listening. And Jason, thanks for being the co-host. And here we go. I don't know. Do we have to have any special sign off here? Let me see what my other button does here. No, that's my laughter button. I can change those as well. Do I need to end it with this here? Or no? No, that's just the intro. I don't do that, right? How do I stop that now? Hold on. Oh my God.
We can't stop the podcast.
I can turn the volume down. Okay. Yeah, no, that's just the intro thing. Are you fine with the intro music?
It's fine for now, I guess.
Oh, he doesn't like it. I can see.
I like it. No,
you don't like
it's
it.
okay.
There's some room for it's okay. Yeah, there's some room for.
We might need some higher tempo music, but I don't know.
Like
it's
what's
fine.
Like, are you more into like Mexican theme, like Spanish, or do you want like
some electronica or something?
Electronica, Metallica. I don't know. We'll have to figure that all out.
Some heavy drums. Well, thanks, Glenn. That was fun.
Yeah,
That's,
thanks, Jason.
My objective met for today is just to
Okay,
have some
perfect.
fun.
Until next time. Thanks for listening.
Bye-bye.